This is something I've been waiting to do for a long time now. I think I've been watching your thing for about 7 years, and I've always thought, man, I really would like to share my story. And here we are, so I'm really glad that you were able to come out here and do this.
I'm happy we finally get to do this too. How would you introduce yourself to somebody meeting you for the first time?
I'm a 40, I'm just a pretty laid back guy. I'm chill. I don't like to have any complications or anything. I'm very honest and open. What you see is what you get. And I love sports. I love dogs. I'm just pretty chill.
What do you want the world to know about you?
I'd like to know in the world that no matter what you're going through in life, that you can still overcome any obstacle as long as you take it day by day. We all have troubles and struggles that we have to deal with. But you can overcome it as long as you just keep battling.
Tell me about some of your troubles and struggles.
I have multiple pterygium syndrome. It's a rare genetic disorder that I'm currently the oldest survivor that we know of to have it. I have trouble with my muscles and my arms and my legs not developing properly. They deteriorate. So I limp every day in a wheelchair. I have scoliosis and a fused spine. So that really limits what I have to do. And I had COVID a couple of years ago that took away my oxygen, so I have to live with oxygen every day. But those are the struggles that I deal with mainly on a daily basis.
What's it like to be the oldest known person with your disability?
Kind of crazy. I didn't really expect to be this far in life, so every day is just kind of like a new experience. Like I tell everybody, there's no roadmap or instruction manual for how I do this thing. So being 40 is blows my mind, actually. It doesn't even sound for real to say that I'm 40, but I'm here, and every day is a new day. It's crazy. Like I said, I guess I need to go back to the day-by-day thing. I don't really think about what could have been or what might have been. I just know that I'm still here. So that's kind of how I approach it, is not really worrying too much about what might have been and what could be, and just trying to make it what it is.
Anthony, tell me about your mom.
She's been a great influence in my life. She's the best mom in the world. She don't really like to hear that a lot, but it's true. She's been there for me for everything that I've ever had to go through in life, and I'm very blessed to have her in my life.
Why don't you like to hear that you're a great mom?
I don't know. I just do what, what most moms would do. So, he's always just made it so easy. I tell him that, people, when he was little, we had a lady one time in the grocery store say, I feel so sorry for you. And I was like, why? And I just think to myself, he didn't get into things. He was able to communicate from a very early age because, he didn't run around and run away from me. We sat and talked a lot, so he talked very young. And he was able to communicate with me what was wrong. Back then, there weren't any temper tantrums of any kind. We just communicated real well with each other. And I thought, I don't know why she feels bad for me. Hey, I got it easy. He's not tearing up my cabinets, throwing things out.
I ran into things in my wheelchair.
Once you got the wheelchair, you did. Yeah. So, but no, he's just quite a blessing.
I didn't realize I was that different until I was in kindergarten, and I was in recess. I was laying on the ground, and the kid that we'll call John, I'm not going to put his name out there, I said, hey, do you want to play? And I remember to this day, he said, I only play with kids that can walk. And he stepped over me and ran off. And that day, I cried, and my mom held me, and that was the first time she realized that she couldn't fix everything. And it was the first time that I realized that I wasn't going to be accepted by everybody in this world.
When was Anthony first diagnosed?
In 1990, but they told us then that it was arthrogryposis, explained kind of, the webbing of the neck and the fingers and things, and, gave us, because we didn't have the internet very much back then, thick stack of papers about this big to read about all of it, but they saw him about every 3 months in 3 or 4 different clinics up there and monitored him along the way. They never changed the diagnosis, though, until his little brother Daniel, like I said, died in the 5th month. They probably told me they did an ultrasound, and they told us about the 4th month that they noticed edema in his skin and around his heart. And they had noticed some of the same webbing, and they told us then that, that they thought it was going to be the same thing. And so, you know, when he no longer had a heartbeat, then they induced labor. And I was kind of unconscious at the time, probably couldn't have made the right decision anyway. So Tony told them, you know, to go ahead and run some studies on the fetus, whatever they could gain from it to help, you know, because we didn't know that it was the same thing Anthony had at that time. They were just telling us that it was similar. You know, that if it could help other babies, that's what they needed to do. And so they did, and they come back and they said, we've determined, because they did some chromosome studies, they said, we've determined from the chromosome studies that it is multiple pterygium syndrome.
They didn't really give me a life expectancy. They just told me that I'm a miracle. I hear I'm a miracle a lot.
What's it like to hear that?
It has its ups and downs and pros and cons. I'm aware that people are inspired by my story, but at the same time, I don't really like when people tell me about their problems and they're like, oh, I really shouldn't be complaining about that to you, because we all have our own problems in life, and I don't feel like them comparing their self to me makes their problems any less than what they're going through. And I want to be able to have people to relate to me that way. So I guess that would be the disadvantage of it, is having people think that they can't talk to me about their own problems.
Do you feel like a miracle?
I do in ways, but at the same time, I feel like that I have a purpose. So, and the miracle is what they want to call it, that's fine. But I also feel like I'm here for a reason. So whatever that reason is, I just hope I'm doing the most to achieve it.
So then, you know, then we had a diagnosis, and they told us at that point that he's only the 11th child in the United States to be diagnosed with it. And then I think it was later, maybe a couple of years later, they told us that the oldest person with it had lived to be 26. You know, but they, like I said, he was monitored until he was 18 very closely by 4 or 5 different clinics at Scottish Rite. You know, they saw him, they monitored his progress, took whatever steps necessary. And of course, then when you turn 18, then you kind of get kicked out, and you have to find doctors that are willing to work with you.
A lot of weight in the camera.
Uh-huh.
Tell me about your dad.
That's my dad, Tony. I'm a junior. I was raised with the same name, and we have a lot of the same personality traits. And he definitely made me the man I am today, and I try to live through him through his wrestling days. He was a wrestler growing up, and that kind of is how I got into loving the thing so much. And just, you know, I've been very lucky to have him in my life.
Before we talk a little bit about Anthony, I got to hear about your wrestling days.
Oh yeah, that was the good old days. Main reason I got into wrestling is to let him see his handicap, but didn't have to hold him back from being in the public and doing what he wants to do.
I have impacted a lot of lives. I'm married to a lot of people. I got a lot of friends. I have family that love me, and I consider myself blessed for that.
When I was in my wrestling business, I had a chance to go to WWF or whatever, and you'd have to sign a contract. Well, when I made that promise to God, I said, God, if you'll let him live, I'll never leave him or be incoherent where I can't go to him. And he told me, he said, Dad, you sign a contract and they send you to Mexico or wherever they may, you won't be able to come. I said, well, Daddy won't do it. And I never did sign a contract. I wrestled independent because I wasn't going to go back on the word I gave to God. I said, if you let him live, I'll always be where I can get to him.
What's it like to know your dad made that deal with God?
I mean, I love it. I've always been grateful for it. Of course, I wish he could have been big time, because I tell people all the time that he was so good at what he did. Like, oh my God, he was the best bad guy in the world. He was the main event on most of the cards, because he could make the crowd hate him so much by running his mouth. I get a lot of my personality from him because of that. So, but other than that, I think that just having him around growing up was the most important thing. Just knowing that he was always going to be there.
No matter what their predictions was, he's never let any of that stop him from, you know, living his life to the fullest. And there were points and times where he gave me heart attacks in that, and you know, but I mean, he has. He's been married, divorced, has a college degree, lived on his own. You know, he's got to live life for the most part the way he wanted to, or to the best that he can.
we had a talk whenever I was 17 of, like I said, I think I told you earlier that I didn't expect to ever be on my own or live on my own. And I told her one day, we were driving down the road, and I said, Mom, you realize that one day you're going to have to let me get into things on my own and figure out how to live life on my own. And to her credit, she let me do it. Like, I know most parents, I have friends in wheelchairs that have never got to experience life on their own, but she let me try it, and I'm pretty sure I've added a lot of gray hair in her life that she didn't have, but she really did. Until my health got bad, it was all on my own, so I've been blessed for that.
Tell me about your life of independence for 20 years, was it?
Yeah. So I have an aide that comes at morning and nighttime, and they would help me do the grooming things and things that I can't do for myself, and they would set out things that are out of my reach to be in my reach. And other than that, once they were gone, I just did everything myself, which to me, that was my biggest pride point is when I was growing up, I never pictured that being possible. Like, I always thought that I was always going to have to live at home and have somebody take care of me. So being able to do that on my own really gave me a lot of self-worth. I've been married before, I've been married and divorced, and I went to college and I graduated college. So I've had the full experience of being an adult and living all the things that normal people would. So I've been pretty blessed in that area.
Was your ex-wife disabled or not disabled?
She was not. She was a normal person. She played softball. We met online at the time, and we were together 5 or 6 years, and things happen, you know. People fall out of love, and life goes on.
Are you happy you got to experience marriage, though?
I am. I'm single now. I've been single for the last 10 years, so I'm not looking to date, but also, if it were to happen, if I meet somebody like through this or whatever, it'd be great. I'm 40 now, so I'm not getting any younger.
Anthony, I feel like if I was 18 and thought I would only live to my 20s, I'd be sitting on some beach or mountain somewhere, not concerned with learning at all. Why did you decide to go to college?
I'm gonna be honest with you here. I took a 4-year degree and turned it into 9 years. And I had a really, really good time for a long time.
Oh, so you went for the fun.
I went for the fun. I did not go for the education.
Tell me about the fun you had in college, and don't hold back.
There's a lot I can't tell you, but I had a good time, let's just say.
Did you always think that Anthony would go off to college and get married and then get divorced and get a job and live independently? Did you expect that?
I never did. Was always scared. And even when he wanted to move out on his own and all that, you sure you're going to be okay? You know, I was worried all the time, you know. Yeah, Dad, I'm good. But he had friends and he had one friend through school that always stayed with him through thick and thin.
Yeah, he was my roommate for all through college.
They would go to Six Flags or whatever, and the other kids said, "Come on, go with me." He said, "No, I'm staying right here with Anthony." And he would. He was a true friend. Something's hard to find this day and time.
What were you thinking while he was partying in college?
Well, at first I thought I didn't go to college, so I have no clue what it's like, but I didn't realize that he was partying because I went and cleaned his dorm room once a week. I still saw him every week, and I'd take him groceries and stuff like that. So
she was oblivious to any kind of
I was oblivious, yeah. You know, I mean, I became a mom at 17. I grew up in a very strict Southern Baptist household, so I had no clue what went on at college. So anyway, I get this phone call from one of his professors, and he says, I'm concerned about Anthony. He's not been in class for the last 10 or 11 days, I forget. And I was like, what?
What were you doing?
A lot of Mad Dog 2020. a lot of midday drinking.
Yeah.
For
Yep.
people who don't know, that's a beer, right?
That is a malt liquor that costs $4 a bottle. So
You were enjoying yourself.
I was having a great time.
And how did you respond to this professor?
I said, let me figure out what's going on. I think it was a 9 o'clock class, wasn't it? It was
Yeah,
an
it was
early morning class.
I was drinking, yeah.
And so I immediately got in the vehicle and I took off to his dorm room, and I did have a key. You know, he probably didn't want me to, but I insisted on having one. And so I come in the door, and his aide is giving him a bath, and he's drunk as a skunk. He can't even get words out of his mouth. So I realized as I'm ranting and raving, and my husband's trying to get me out of the room, he said, he's not going to remember anything that you say. He said, you're just blowing off steam. He said, you're embarrassing yourself in front of the aide. And I was like, she's a mom too. But anyway, once he sobered up a little bit, we had this conversation. He wound up having to repeat that class, and I made him pay for it.
4 semesters in, I wasn't able to spend my own money again bit, and my GPA, I had to write a couple of letters of appeal because my GPA was too low to stay in, but I eventually got my act together, and I graduated with a 3.2, so.
What was it like to have an aide in college?
The aides, like I said, they were only there for morning and night, so they were only there like 20 or 30 minutes a day.
What would they help you with?
Help me get dressed and help me get things that I needed for the day. And after that, they were in and out. I still have one as an adult as well. They just help out and do the things that I need that I can't really physically do for myself. And as long as they get things set up in my reach, I do everything else for the day myself.
What was it like to see your dad wrestle?
Oh man, it's the best thing in the world. He was a good guy when we started out growing up, and then later on in life he wore a mask, and he was the bad guy. So that was a good difference, having to realize that you can't cheer for your dad because he needs people to boo him. That's part of the job. When he was the bad guy, he would have to drop us off about a half mile from the arena, and we'd have to walk in the rest of the way and sit right in there with him because
Yeah, we'd have to ride in separate cars because you couldn't let them know you.
Yeah, they knew that he was my dad, or me being in a wheelchair. They're not going to boo him, so we had to keep the gimmick a reality.
And if they get mad at you, they'll turn on your family, so you wouldn't want them to know that's your family there. He was giving me flack one night, and the people didn't know that he was my kid. I was telling somebody had flipped me a quarter. Say, here, hang me, you ain't worth nothing but a quarter. I said, give me that quarter, I'm gonna play with it. So I get out there to him because he wanted me to fool with him that night. I said, here, little boy, you take this quarter and call somebody that cares. Well, this dude come up and said, look here, I done seen you fool with all these other people, but I ain't gonna see you take that handicapped child right there and talk to him that way.
What are you thinking when this is happening?
I was like, oh my God, my dad's about to get shot. Yeah, this happened. It made it really hard for bad guys to talk to me because people are naturally going to want to defend the guy in the wheelchair. At the same time, I enjoyed being able to yell back at him and do things like that. So it was a tough balance for sure.
Behind the scenes, it was almost the perfect setup. Because
Right.
you could pick on him and he loved it,
Right.
and everybody hated you more.
Right. Exactly.
Is there anything other people can do to be more inclusive?
I think so, but I also think that people try as much as they can. I think that we live in a society where disabled people are taught how to interact with normal people, and normal people aren't really focused on how to interact with disabled people. So I kind of wish in a way that we can get more better at that, is not looking at people as being so different.
Why did you reach out and want to share your story?
I've been watching your channel for about 7 years now, and I realized that with a rare disorder that it isn't talked about that often, and I felt like this would be a good opportunity to put a story out there for somebody that may be going through what I'm going through and have never had the spotlight on it before.
How has it impacted your mental health being at home since you've been on the ventilator?
It's been rough. Up until the last 2.5 years, I've been independent since I was 18 years old. I lived on my own for 21 years. So it was a really tough adjustment giving up my independence. And that definitely wore on my mental health. I have depression and I have anxiety that I have to deal with on a daily basis. And it has its ups and down moments. But overall, and I just get back to my taking it day by day thing. I have good days and I have bad days. So I'm just trying to make more good days than I do bad days.
Did you move back in with your mom?
I did, yes.
What's that like?
I like that she can cook my meals for me. I don't have to make my meals anymore, so that's been awesome. And my mom was having to drive 20 minutes away to come get to me if I had any emergencies. And we were having more emergencies more frequently, so it was just easier on her as we're both getting older for me to be in a closer environment. So I finally agreed to move in with her, and we're currently renovating my place. Going to be 3 houses down, and hopefully within the next 2 months I'll be living in it and still have my independence back, but also be in an area where she can get to me.
His nickname was Hell on Wheels. So,
Still to this day.
still to this day. So,
Why was your nickname Hell on Wheels?
I don't believe in going slow, so if it has the fast speed, I'm gonna put it on the fastest it'll go.
yes.
What was that like from your perspective?
Terrifying.
How important has family been in your life?
I think it's everything. I think my family has defined who I am and how I've gotten to be where I'm at in life. I don't think I could have gotten this far without them. I think I've been a blessing to their life as well. I think I've
Yes.
made their life better, so
Definitely.
it's just definitely been we've all worked together in the way we should. I don't think it should be any other way. I think it's just a perfect scenario for all of us.
What advice do you have for younger people in general? It can be disability related, but doesn't have to be.
Just take each day and live it. You can't really do yesterday over with. Tomorrow isn't granted, so you're in the future right now. You control your own destiny. And if you take care of today, tomorrow will take care of itself. Life is, there's no roadmap to it. Everybody's got their own journey. So I would say, don't let this world define you by somebody telling you what you can and can't do. You decide that for yourself. Only you know what your limitations are.